Hello everyone, my name is Irvin, also known as Copeland. Today's video is about ServiceNow. Every company, well, okay, not every company, just about every company is using ServiceNow for their incident management. And if you're trying to get into help desk or IT in some way, chances are you will be exposed to ServiceNow. For those reasons, you need to know how to use it. So let's learn how to use it. All right, let's get it started. In order to access this system, we need to set up a login and give you access so that way you can follow along. Now, be sure to let me know as soon as possible in the comments that you want this type of access. I can only do this for a few days after this video is released, and maybe few exceptions sometime in the future, mainly because it's time consuming, which is something that I will show you right now. So make sure you leave a comment and let me know that you want access so that way you can follow along and learn as you follow my video. Of course, if you are subscribed and you like this video, I will prioritize your access before anybody else. I think it's only fair. So thank you so much for subscribing. Now I am logged in as administrator for this development version of ServiceNow, and in here, this is where I would give you access. So just to show you, I would go to users, and I will create a new user, and I will base this off your YouTube comment. So whatever your handle is on YouTube, let's say your YouTube ID is Bob Bobsons, I will go ahead and base it off of that just to give you an idea what would happen. So I would do something like this, user ID Bob B, and I would say Bob Bobsons. And let me just do Bobsons here just to make sure I don't have a duplicate out there. And I will create a title for you, Help Desk Analyst, and department, sure, customer service, customer support. And in a company that you might start working for, you would have this other information filled out as well. It would probably be based off whatever the company gives you as an email address. So it wouldn't necessarily be your personal information. Again, whenever I grant you access, some of this will be filled out as well, and you don't need to provide me anything else. All you have to do is just say, can you please grant me access? All right. For now, I will go ahead and leave this as it is. I will leave you as active. I'll select submit here. There's a duplicate of Bob B. So, okay, Bob B1. That's fine. No problem. So, let's go ahead and adjust your access. Right now, you're just created and added in there, but I will go ahead and grant you access. So, let me see if I have Bob 1. Looks like I have just Bob, so that's okay. I think I have Bob in the system already. Either way, the password, of course, will be need to be reset next time we log in, and that's perfectly fine. But what I want to show you is what else I have to do is assign you roles. So the role that I have to go in here and assign you is ITIL, just to simplify it. What this does is gives you service desk or help desk full access, so that way when you log in, you'll be able to do your job. Okay. Now that I've added this, you can see that suddenly there are tons of different roles because the one I added comes with all these other things, so that way you can do your job. Next thing I will do, go ahead and add you to a group, and let's go ahead and add you both to help desk and service desk, so that way you can see whatever's going on in there as well. Select update, and now we can go and, well, actually, I need to change your password as well. I need to set a password. I will go ahead and generate the one as short as possible, so that way when I reply to you, it's not a password that's like this long. So this is what I'll do. I'll keep generating until I get one that's pretty short in case you have to type it in, but I highly suggest that you copy paste it whenever you go to sign in for the first time. Okay, now it's saved, and at this point, now I would send you a link to this development version, and now you can, with the login ID and password, and then you can follow along. All right, let's see what that looks like. So here is the login page, and let's use our access. It will force us to change our password for the first time. So go ahead and do that. I will make this quickly here. Okay. And here is a bit of a sort of like introduction. This is the window you will get for basic navigation the first time you log in, which is also nice. But in a video, I will actually show you everything and kind of explain what is going on here. All right, now, if you are working for some company that uses single sign-on, that login will probably happen automatically, so you don't have to go through this. But for this scenario, this is what's happening. So anyways, here is a basic tutorial, and if you want to follow this along as well whenever you log in, that's perfectly fine. This is just kind of a intro to what's going on. So here it is. Here is your service operation workspace, as they call it. So as a help desk, this is what you would see. Now, of course, companies can modify this and make it look quite different than this, but this is the basic template, and this is what you would be experiencing. So you would be basically taking inbound calls and go based off what you have on your dashboard here. So let's go ahead and see what we have. This is what we really need to concentrate on, and to access this, you would select on the list right over here, and then you would see different type of menus that would be related to you as somebody who works at a help desk. First you see is interactions, and there are 3 different options here. It says assigned to you, active, and all. So not to be confused with incidents, interactions is, for example, you get an inbound call and they just want some basic information on how to do something real quick, and it's not an incident in the sense that something is broken on their computer. It's just an inquiry, if you will, or inquiry into something like basic stuff. Like, how would I do this? Where would I go to, request access or something like that? So it's stuff that's not necessarily incident in the sense that there's nothing broken per se, but they more like need a guidance or some kind of help that is not necessarily something broken, right? Anyways, let's see what this looks like. I'll go ahead and select new. So you get an inbound call and you want to record this interaction, and this is the place where everybody else within your group will be able to see it. So this is a centralized place for interactions. And I will go ahead and select new. I'm getting an inbound call, and then we would fill out this information for the user. Now we can see here that we have an option to select open for, and this is where we would search for a name of the user so we can fill this out. So we're filling out this basic form. So let's go ahead and just pick a random person here. Okay, sure. Let's say it's Callie here, LaBeouf, and let's say she's calling in and she wants basic, let's say, information on something. Let's go ahead and fill this out here where it says type. We can see what kind of interaction this is. Is this a chat? Is this some kind of messaging? Is this a phone, or is it a video? And we can change the state of it. So let's say it's new, on hold, work in progress, closed complete, or closed abandoned. This will depend on what happens with this interaction, right? So in this case, we'll go ahead and leave it at new, just so we can go through the menus and see what happens when we leave it at new. I will also remove this from Bob Bobson as the person that's currently logged in. So for you, right? Let's say you are Bob Bobson. I'll go ahead and remove it just so you can see what happens. And in this case, I will say Callie called in to ask about updating contact information. I'll go ahead and put the same thing in the, well, in the work notes. I will actually say assisting. Well, I will actually leave it blank for now because we will not assign it to ourselves. We will just leave the state in new just so we can say it, just so we can see it in the system accordingly. I'll just go ahead and save it. All right. I will go ahead and close this here just so you don't see it. And then here we are back at this first menu, right? And if we select active, now we will see that interaction that we've just filled out, right? It's there. Nobody is working on it, and we can see that it's opened for Callie, that it's a type of it's a phone type of interaction, that it's still a new state, and that it's not assigned to anybody. So this is important to kind of know, because everybody from a help desk will be able to see this and work these tickets. Or if there is a supervisor, which but there should be a supervisor, but what I'm trying to say is if there's a supervisor that would be assigning these tickets, or these not tickets, I'm sorry, interactions, then they would be able to see all of this in one centralized place as well. And of course, you would see, if you select all, you can see the one that was already resolved. This is something I filled out, I guess off camera, if you will, just so we have something in there previously. And you can see the one that's also created new, and you can see the difference here. You can see that close complete, and there's a status of new for this one here. So here, let's go to active ones. Let's go ahead and resolve this. If I go to this one here, I can go ahead and say I've assigned it to myself, so that way I can get credit for this. And on the work notes here, I will go ahead and say helped Callie by providing instructions on how to update personal contact information. Okay, so, and I will go ahead and save this here. Okay, now I've noticed we've got some things that have changed, and I want you to really kind of pay attention to this. You can see that automatically this, what happened was, since it was empty before assignment, it tells you here with this log activity that now it's assigned to Bob Bobson, and now that it's set to work in progress automatically, right? So this is good to happen. Otherwise, when you're working just regular incidents, then you would actually have to change it to work in progress or something else. In this case, it automatically changes to work in progress. All right, and you can also see that this changed up here as well. Instead of being new, you can see the state has changed to work in progress. Now at this point, I can just go ahead and complete it, select complete here, and we have other options if you just want to abandon it. So if this is, let's say you actually don't need anything, you don't need to actually do anything, I should say, then you can simply just abandon, and the interaction will just disappear from the system. Or you have an option to create an incident. So what this does, if let's say there's something actually wrong with Callie's computer, you know, you find out, well, I can't resolve this because I'm help desk and I don't have the way to resolve this. Let's say Callie's somewhere else, you don't have access to her computer or whatever it is that it turns into, then you can create it into an incident, right? This is something that somebody else will actually have to spend more time to resolve. And in this case, incidents are referred to as, you know, something that is wrong with the computer or hardware or software or anything like that. And that's the major difference between incident and interaction. All right. So, and we have that option. We can simply change it, select here to create an incident or create a change. We'll talk about what changes are a little bit later when we talk about incidents. But anyways, if we select save and complete, then this would show up just like the other ticket in the system. It would just say that it's complete, but it will still remain in there. But let's go ahead and select create incident here just to see what happens when we do that. And I will go ahead and add a comment. I will say the issue is actually with the computer creating an incident for, let's say, on-site support. So the point of this comment is to let everybody know to why you are changing it and created an incident. And again, here's the activity down here. We can see that we've went ahead and created an incident from the interaction, right? From interaction. And now it's changed to INC instead of IMS, as you can see here. So this is just this is what the incidents are labeled as INC. And we got a note here that says why we've done this, right? And then you can, if you're going to continue working this, you can simply select assign to me, immediately, but the option is there because now that you created an incident from an interaction, you can now see that it's back to being a state of new, right? We can see that it's back to state of new. All right. So if we scroll down, now that it's in an incident, we have quite a few more options. And here we have a description as well that we can fill out. And I will go ahead and fill this out. And I will say something to the fact of the comment that we've added in here. We'll say customer's computer needs customer's computer is preventing her from updating contact information. So let's go ahead and do this description, and we can specify a location if we know what the location is. Let's go ahead and pretend that it's in this at this location in London. So of course you make sure you fill all this out so it goes to the proper place. Channel, and let's go ahead and select email. And the category, we can here leave it at inquiry help. Now if there is an issue with something else like hardware or software, then you can certainly do this. In this case, we'll go ahead and just leave it still at inquiry help because we don't know for certain that it is software issue per se. And of course, if you want to select subcategory, you can. At this time, there really isn't much there. You can see that the state is new, that nobody's assigned to it. We can see the impact here, which is low. We can change this to medium or high because this is what happens when we create an incident. We'll go ahead and say it's low because we're just updating the information. Now, of course, if it's some other urgency, then we can adjust that accordingly. And if you want to keep an eye on this to see what happens, you can add yourself to the watch list. So you're no longer assigned to it, but you can keep an eye on it to see what is going on. All right. And here is some stuff under impact here. And you can see the type of service. I wouldn't worry about this right now. This is not something that you would necessarily do as a help desk, but go ahead and ask whoever it is that works for your company to see if this is something you need to fill out. Because if you look at here, you can see a bunch of different random stuff that's not necessarily related, but you can fill this out if that's what the company calls for. Configuration item, obviously, you can just type in, let's say OS or whatever it is that is set for your company. Let's see what kind of options we have. Let's pretend it's Mac AirBook. Why not, right? But make sure it's something that is related to that if you have that type of setup. So let's go ahead and change it to assignment group. In this case, we will change it to help desk, assignment group. And we can assign it to somebody else. If you are a supervisor, you can certainly assign it. You can assign it to yourself again if you wanted to. All right. And if you have this probable cause, this and that, resolution, it's not resolved. So go ahead and just leave it as blank. And whoever works this ticket, they will be able to fill this out. All right, let's go ahead and just save. All right. Now that it's saved, let's go ahead and see what happened to it. Let's go ahead and see what happened to it. Let's go back to our list here. Let's go ahead and look at interactions again. We can see there are some interactions in here. And we can see that when we go back to our interactions, it didn't actually delete that interaction. That interaction is still there, except that you've also created a ticket on top of this. So there is also interaction and a ticket. I'll go ahead and close this interaction since I went ahead and created a ticket for this. So, and it's still assigned to me, but if we select to all, we can see both of those that we have in the system. But this one is still assigned to me. So I'll go ahead and close it. And before I do that, I will type in created an incident ticket. And you can specify what that ticket number is. I just can't be bothered to go back in and do it right now. But you want to specify the incident number that we saw previously. So INC and whatever the number is there. So INC, blah, 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 whatever it is. And I will go ahead and close it. Complete. Okay. All right, that's done. Now we can see that it's no longer assigned to you, but if you select all, you can still see that it happened. So you might want to do this instead of abandoning ticket, because you don't want to necessarily delete it or anything like that. You still want it to be in the system, which is perfectly fine. It doesn't matter. All right, moving on to the next menu. I'll go ahead and just close this interaction here just so we can keep going down the list. All right, so the next thing we have here is requests. As a help desk analyst, you wouldn't necessarily deal with this so much, as in more you would be working on resolving issues. But the requests are basically things like, requesting laptops or hardware or of some sort. And the reason I mentioned laptop is like if we select open items, we can see some people are requesting laptops and it looks like a phone as well. And these are things that would be approved by somebody else that's within that department. So an associate, a user would request a laptop. It would go for approval to their manager or to their director or whoever, and they would decide whether to approve it or not. And if we, for example, just open one of these real quick, you can see that this one is work in progress. It hasn't been approved yet. But, if we go back, we can see that, let's see, maybe this one was approved. No, this one's still work in progress. Okay. And let's see, for this iPad. Looks like it's in fulfillment stage, meaning that it's been approved, but it's still being purchased, if you will. So whoever is in charge of basically going further when it comes to fulfilling this request, and it got approved by their manager or a director, whoever, they would have to go about ordering this item, right? So chances are, if you start off help desk, you wouldn't necessarily be the person that is going to be dealing with this for now. So I don't want you to worry about it, but it's something that they can train you on easily, right? If they decide that you're the person who's going to go further, and the reason I'm talking about it in this way is because the next step could be going to a completely different system. For example, there's a system called SAP or something else that is used to order and keep track of things that are being purchased for the company. So it's a completely different video. But again, if you are the person that happens to be now in charge of doing this, you will be trained on that specifically. So in this video, I wanted to create something that will be related directly to you as somebody who's starting help desk to begin with. So for those reasons, some of the things will be skipped over because it wouldn't be related. And this example of this is also catalog tasks, right? So I will go ahead and omit off that. But here is the next thing that is completely related to, and that is incidents, right? We've just created an incident based off interaction that came through, which is perfectly fine. But let's go ahead and see how we can go about working on these as well. So if you select, just like before, on the interactions assigned to you, we see that there is none here. And if we collect on unassigned, you will see all the ones that you have the ability to see, which chances are all of the incidents in the system, whether it's assigned to help desk or not. And you can see this, well, you can see it's rhetorical to say, right? Of course you can see this, but you can see all these incidents that are within the system. And there are some that are unassigned. If you scroll over to the right for a quick glance of it, you can see some of them are assigned to help desk, which would be you, but you can see some that are unassigned, and your job could be to assign them to correct groups. So you could be in charge of doing this as well. You could be the tier 2, and you would be deciding where these tickets go. And you can see because there are different, obviously, different assignment groups, different departments. And you can see some of them went to software, which could be a group that's simply dealing with application support. And of course, there's like one that's like here that's called network, etc., 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 right? So, and you can see the ones that are open in the sense that are, open state, right? Nobody's working on them. You can see the ones that are resolved, and in the right now you don't see anything. And then of course, if you select all, you would see absolutely all of them, right? Whatever the state is, whatever the state they are in. All right. So now let's go ahead and create a new ticket. We'll go in here and do some reassignment of these as well. But let's go ahead and select to create a new ticket here, right here on the right. So create new incident. Now, this is what it could look like. There's another way of looking at or filling out this ticket as well. But this is, chances are, as a help desk or service desk person, this is what you would see. And again, this could be somebody calls in and you immediately decide that it's not necessarily interaction, but an issue that needs to be an incident for immediately, right? And so, but the company you work for may decide that you want to create interactions for every phone call, every chat, every this and that, and that's perfectly fine. So make sure that that's the case. So the way I'm thinking about it is slightly different, right? To me, incident, if you know that it's going to be incident to begin with, then I don't necessarily need to create an interaction first. But if your employer wants you to create an interaction, that's what you would do, and then create an incident based off of that, like I showed you, that's perfectly fine. So let's go ahead and say short description. We'll go ahead and say, well, we'll start off with who is calling, right? Because normally whenever you answer a phone call, you can ask them, who is it calling, you ask for their name, and let's go ahead and just say it's Haley Rochford here, and automatically fills out her location, which is really nice. So this is one thing that is helpful whenever you create an incident. It will pull up their location immediately because it will pull up that metadata, if you will, about that person. And remember how we talked about updating profile as one of those things that the other person had issues with? Well, this is the information for this person. Information is being pulled directly from that information. We can leave the state as a new. We'll circle back to the description here. We're just getting basic information for right now. All right. So we've got that. That's good. That's the first thing. And I will go ahead and say Haley's computer. Great thing about it here, as you see here, looks like we had some saved info that was automatically saved for us, which can help us, expedite this. So this is a couple of different tickets that I've filled out already. So that's nice. However, we're going to create a new one. Haley's computer is acting slow. To just make it simple, I'll go ahead and copy and paste that in the description as well, just to expedite things. Please look at this issue, and you may need to get certain information from her before you send this ticket to somebody else or create a ticket. For example, user's computer information is this, and then you would type in, let's say, computer name, whatever that may be, right? So sometimes this is very important to have because you might want to take control and see what is going on with Haley's computer. But for that to happen, you need Haley's computer name, which is the host name. You can ask him what this is. Sometimes there is like a note or some kind of an asset tag or some kind of tag on the computer that says this. But a lot of times, and you can you can ask him and what that is, right? But I know what your question might be right now. Well, how would they know what it is? Well, every company should have a way to provide or to make this simple for a user to figure out. So it could be literally a sticker on the computer. It could be a sticker that says computer name on it, and that could be it. It could be something that's in the background of their desktop. So they're logged into the computer, they're looking at their desktop, their picture, and it could have things like BG info, which pulls information for the computer, which could have all kinds of things, including the computer name, right? Okay. So you need to get as much information as possible in case you're having to send this over to somebody else to a different department. Okay, and I will go ahead and change this impact and urgency to medium because the computer is still working. It wouldn't necessarily be high urgency. All right, so we'll go ahead and keep it at medium. And we'll skip over this here because, again, this is something that's a semantic. But I will go ahead and provide a configuration item. And I'm hoping to just find a regular computer in here. I don't know if this version of ServiceNow has it. Again, as an admin, you can add all kinds of stuff in there. Let's see, HP. Oh, look, there is a printer. It's okay. We can create a ticket for a printer as well after this for practice. Let's see, Dell. Let's see, laptop. Desktop. There it is. Desktop. Let's go ahead and say it's desktop software in this case. All right. Assignment group. We can assign it to, let's say, a group that's on site. And let me just see if there is anything in the system here that we can use. Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and just assign it because I'm not sure. Let's go ahead and let's do service desk. In this case, let's pretend service desk is somewhere on site, right? Somewhere on site for your company, but this could be called whatever, could be called anything. Admins will create these assignment groups specifically, so all you have to do is just ask, what is the assignment group for this? And you would, of course, need to have this information. And don't worry, whenever you start working help desk, this would be trained to you, right? That you would be trained on how to do this, right? So now, before you save this, and don't assign it to anybody because whoever works service desk, they can assign it to themselves or whatever the reason or whatever the process is. In the work notes, you can say, for example, let's pretend this happened. Could not access computer remotely. Remotely? Remotely. I didn't know how to spell remotely for some reason. All right. So anyways, there's a spell checker. So that's great if English is your second language like myself. And I will say sending ticket to service desk. Save. Okay. Now, so this is an example of a medium priority ticket. We can go ahead and create a high priority ticket as well. So let's go ahead and we're done with this one. So where did this go, right? Well, it's in the system right here. If we select all, right, we can see that it's there. It's right here on the top. So, but we can see that it's now assigned to service desk, which is great. And if we select to open it, we can see how it looks like. We were just here, so that's fine. And let's go ahead and create a new ticket here, which is going to be a high priority ticket. And in this case, let's go ahead and say the caller is, let's see if there's anything under K. Let's say it's Karen here. And we will say that the issue is all of the computers. Let's see here. Computers are not connected to the internet. Now, the reason I said it like this, and it could be internet, but it could also be intranet, or it could also be network, right? But the reason I kind of put this in is because most people that are not computer savvy, they will just say internet, but this could be a local network issue, right? It could be a local network issue. And I will say, Karen said that none of the computers computers are working, web site errors, and etc. Okay, and I will go ahead and say that the state is new, which is fine. However, I will change the impact to high and urgency to high, which makes it a critical. So what happens here usually is whenever you create a high urgency ticket, which becomes critical ticket, people who are part of that department that you assigned it to will get all paged out, even if it's after hours. So because this is a bigger issue, this is a big high impact issue, right? So let's go ahead and scroll down here and assign this to network support, and we'll leave it unassigned, so meaning nothing here where it says assigned to, because we want to page everybody. If you assign it to a person, it will only try to page that one person within that group, and you don't want to do that. However, you can see the people, if you select, once you find a group that's within the system, any group, and you select assign to, you can see all the people that are part of that group. And you can see there are 4 users, and there is another just a fake user here. That's an example. But right now you can see that 4 people work in network support. So all 4 of them will be paged unless you assign it to a single person. Now that could be the case if one person is on call. Let's say David here is on call, and you would have this information ahead of time. You can just assign it directly to David or whoever it is that you have the information on. So it's going to be situational. And you can add additional work notes or whatever, but in this case it's clear cut, and we just want this to be looked at as soon as possible. But if you do have additional comments or work notes, you would certainly, put them in here. For example, cannot ping any computers, something like that. All right. Now, this can be multi-level issue, right? So you can have multiple people, multiple users reporting this issue for which you would have a parent incident. In this case, this could be created as a parent incident later on, and then all the other ones will be attached to this, whoever else calls in. Okay? So I'll go ahead and save it. Now it went to the network support group, and now everybody's being paged for this because it's a high priority incident. Now, let's say you do work network system, and there's something on the network that you have to make change to. And this is, again, not necessarily, this is just because I want to show you how to create a change request on top of an incident. That's the reason I'm saying this. But if a network person makes a change and they put a work note on here that says rebooted switch, and then they would specify which switch it is. They would, for example, say 192, 105, 106, 55 to resolve the issue. They can post this comment, right? They can post this comment after it's assigned to them and all of this type of stuff, right? All right. So in this case, it shows up as you, right? Because you're the one leaving this comment here. But let's say David in that previous example, let's say he gets paged, his name that would show up here instead of yours as something that he's done. And then he would select create change, and he would create a change request. So in this case, the point of this is to let everybody else know that a major change has happened within the work environment. And this could be an issue there was a break fix emergency in this case right here. And this is what we would select, right? But every time you, for example, add some kind of new hardware piece that's connected to the network, you would create a change that is going to be tied to the incident that you've created. And I will show you how that's done as well. There's multiple ways of doing this. But in this case, we're just going to do it like this because this is what fixed the issue for our network. So I went ahead and selected this, and I went and selected next in this here on the bottom, as you saw. So now that we have it, the note that we have here, just to reboot is required. The point of this is basically to show you that there are different stages of change. And this is all you need to know as somebody who's new to help desk. There's first change that needs to happen in order to make this, to fix this because it's a break fix. And then there's different stage. Another second stage is authorization. And then to authorize it, to schedule it, implement it, review it, and closed. Closed is something that happens way later. But these are the stages of something like this, right? And the only thing we need to here is create an assignment group or add an assignment group here, which we'll go ahead and add network. Going to save this. And for now, we're just going to select request approval. This will go on to somebody else who will go through the motions of implementing a change, right? And that's fine. Let's just leave it at that. And we'll touch on this, I promise. I just don't want to confuse you with all of this that is going on. All right, so that's an example of high priority incident that needs to be looked at, right? So now let's go ahead and minimize this here. So this is one way to get to the incidents, but you have different ways of getting to this as well. There are other things down here which are not necessarily related to somebody who would be working help desk at this time. Again, I want to try to keep this as simple as possible, but let's look other ways of creating incident. What I like to do here is when I'm logged in to ServiceNow, I like to select all here, and I like to pin all menus to the left here. This is just a way I prefer to look at things. And from here, you actually have access to all the list items that you have here as well. So if you look on the left here, you can see all kinds of different things that are available to you. So what I'd like to do is type in, just to kind of get organized here, I will type in incidents. And here are some incidents that you might want to start here so that you have quick access to. And here's just an option that you would have. If you select done, now you have it all right up here. These are all things that are related to what you'll be working on right here. And one of the first thing is create new incident, which is going to look different from what I've showed you. But again, here's assigned to me. I like it because it kind of gets rid of all the stuff that it's simplified, and I have more room to view things. And you can see open tickets here. And let's say, for example, here's the one we just created. If I select on this one, you can see the ticket now completely looks different, looks completely different. And this is how I prefer to have it, right? Because it's all in one place. There are no many different menus that you have to go through in order to view all this information. I can just fill all of this out on one form and be done with that. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and create a new ticket. I'm just going to stretch this out a little bit here so you can see a little bit better. The reason I had it the other way is just so that way we have a view that's centered. Okay, so this is how I prefer to create incident tickets. In this case, let's go ahead and pretend that the caller is, I don't know, let's say it's Andrew here. All right, it's Andrew, and we can change the type of category here immediately. Let's say it's software issue, right? And we can have subcategories here, which there would be more stuff if depending on the company you work for. And in this case, the only things that are required are here with asterisks, with red asterisks. So if you don't know what this other stuff is, in my opinion, that's okay, unless you have a way to actually find this information. But ServiceNow, it's not really simple as it may seem unless you found it before. Remember when I found desktop as a configuration and specifically software, chances are there's a desktop hardware configuration item in here somewhere. It's just that it's kind of pain to find the first time, but once you find it once, it will be saved as a quick selection here for you, which is nice. Let's say Andrew's email is not working. Copy paste in the description, and in sense, depending what you are, let's say you are help desk and you are wanting to get more information, of course make sure that computer name is this, and then you can provide whatever it is, right? And channel, how they reached out to you. I will say, go ahead and I'll say in this time it's chat. State, I will say in progress because I'm going to work on it, for example. I'll make the impact medium, and I'll leave urgency to low. Assignment group, I'll go ahead and assign it to myself, help desk, assigned to Bob Bobson. All right. If you scroll down, you can see that most of the other stuff is already kind of there. And, you know, these are some things that are related, search results. And if you want to look at this, that's fine. I like to kind of just minimize that here. This is something new that's in ServiceNow, I believe. And yeah, that's perfectly fine. I will, before I submit this, I'll go ahead and put some work notes in here. Notice that it kind of saved from what we had before. I will say accessed Andrew's computer and resolved email issue by deleting, or so say by rebuilding email profile. Okay, and of course you can add work notes as even after you submit it, obviously, right? And of course, if you're sending it to somebody else, somewhere else, you can still add yourself to watch list. But since I'm working on it, I'll go ahead and leave it as it is. We'll select submit, and it's assigned to me, right? I went ahead and assigned it to me. So in our left menu here, I will select assign to me, and here it is. All right. So since I've already worked on it and I put the resolution on here already, I can just go ahead and close it. Now I will just go ahead and copy paste the work note that I have on here and paste it in there. Now, if you had a way, if you had specific steps on how to resolve this, if you want to create a knowledge article, meaning that this is something that's going to help somebody else in the future resolve it, you can do a check mark here where it says knowledge. It will automatically create a knowledge entry. And then specify a resolution code, and I will say solution provided. Okay. And once I select this, and it will say that I resolved, it will fill this up. So I'll go ahead and just select update. Or you can simply, if you just want to move on, you can just select resolve immediately, and it would change the status and everything for you. I'll go ahead and select update just so you can see what happens here when I select update. Well, it actually kicked me out of that, but at least I got back. It depends on, I've noticed this depends on whoever the admin is for ServiceNow, and they make these customized changes. But anyways, it looks like it didn't change here, so I'll go ahead and select to resolve. And even though I filled this out, so just kind of keep in mind, yeah, in some cases you have to change the state to resolve. So let's go ahead and update that. Go back here, and you can see that it got resolved, you know, by Bob Bobson in this case, and timestamp and this and that. So this thing is resolved. It's closed, right? So this is all we have to do. And in this case, if it's not gone from the system, I mean, obviously you got other option here on hold or canceled. In this case, you can cancel tickets if it's a non-issue, but it's something usually that a supervisor or manager would do. So I wouldn't necessarily worry about that. But hey, if you have the option to do so, then that's perfectly fine. So it's still showing as assigned to you, but it is showed as resolved, which is perfectly fine. And it may disappear at some point from assignment to you when it comes to just showing up the way it is. It's kind of a semantic. It depends on how the admins have it set up. But anyways, you know that the issue is resolved, and that's perfectly fine. In order for you to continue working, you would select open and see if anything needs to be assigned to you or your department, your assignment group, or you can say open unassigned. So, and after you've added to your favorites, if you want to close this menu on the left here, let me squish this back in. So if you don't like the bar that I had back there, and which was under all and it was pinned, if you don't need that, we already added it to favorites, and if you just want to do that, that's perfectly fine. And if you look to see what's going on here, you can see that it's still assigned to you. And that's fine. It may disappear at some point, but you can still look at the open unassigned. And in some cases, admins can set it up so that you can only see tickets that are assigned to your group specifically, right? But as help desk, chances are you'll be able to see all the rest of them. All right, I think I will leave it at that. I hope you like this video. I hope it helps you get into IT and specifically help desk. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. And again, for the first few days, and again, maybe sometime in the future, if somebody else needs access to this, you need to let me know. Otherwise, this version of the instance of this version, development version, may not be up all the time. So if you check it, and if you could try to get to it, it may not be available all the time, is what I'm trying to say. So the sooner you request access from me, the better. All right, take care. Bye-bye.